Welcome to the Southern African Times at SAT Interviews with your host, Brian Mabuti. Today we are live from Access 2024, and today I'm with Beth Knight, all the way from Lloyds Bank, Head of Social Sustainability, and she will be talking to us about the work that she's been doing with regards to, of course, the issue of climate and how we look at the prospects of funding the many aspirations that have been tabled here today at the summit. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
That's okay. It's a privilege to be invited. I'm really pleased to talk to you.
I think the honor is ours. So tell me, so far, we have been talking a lot about collaboration between, of course, the Caribbean and Africa. And there's not been a lot of pathways that have supported that fundamental infrastructure, especially sustainable finance going into that. What have been your thoughts about the many issues that you've heard concerning that as someone who leads, the Department of Sustainability?
So I've been at Lloyds Bank now for 6 months, and one of the reasons that I joined Lloyds Bank was the really progressive approach that they're taking to trying to unlock some of the barriers around things like access to finance. In particular, when we think about Black founders, entrepreneurs, diverse founders that are trying to help us build a better working world and future. And so that's my day job. I get the pleasure of doing that every day with the bank.
So what does success look like currently? I mean, 6 months, of course, very short time, but what are the success stories you can share?
So success looks like improved access to information and networks. So understanding where to go to ask for assistance as founders, how to build, but importantly, how to scale. When you think about not just which banks are there to provide advice and guidance, Lloyds does a lot of that, but also that critical point around access to finance. So when you're at critical stages of business growth, you're not just needing advice and expertise, that helps, you're also needing the financing. And so that's what the role of the bank is, right? It's to understand where we've got a need to accelerate a business growth around hopefully a social or environmental value in this world, and the role that the bank plays in that capacity.
Yeah, but I suppose these particular communities in question, Africa and Caribbean communities, have been sort of somewhat disenfranchised when it comes to the banking community, and their access has not been easy. Now, how are we easing those steps and also building that awareness, and where is this information being accessed to begin with?
So you're completely right, and I think part of what my team has done when we've been thinking about this is firstly to understand what the history and the current landscape of that is. And a big part of that comes with building trust or rebuilding trust in banking institutions, in access to finance. And so a huge part of that is things like showing up within these communities, having dialogues like the one we're having today, so that we're really clearly trying to help people understand we're here. Come and have a conversation, help us understand what you need, and our role in the economy is to be there to help you grow both individually and to also hopefully create a sustainable livelihood. And that's where, when you think about business growth and the part of Lloyds Banking Group that I sit in, it's really about helping individuals to grow businesses. So to your point around Caribbean and Africa, when we talk about the diaspora that is our economic system, part of that is growing businesses here in Britain, thinking about trade. We've got things like chambers of commerce, we've got flows of capital, but when you get on the ground practically, what does that mean? And part of our purpose as a bank at Lloyds Bank is helping Britain prosper. And our culture is a mosaic, There's no getting away from the fact that we are an organisation of hundreds of years. Starting in Birmingham, growing out, we're one of the biggest banks in the UK now. And we have a responsibility with that. We want to make sure that not only when we talk about things like race action and our race action commitments that we've signed up to since 2020, that we're delivering against that. And it's not just about talk, these things, right? The rubber hits the road when access to finance is
well. I'm glad you bring that forward, because the question is, what does success look like, to you within the context of what you've actually signed up for, given the history, of course?
Success looks like any founder of a business, any individual who wants to open an account with Lloyds Bank, having the ability to do so. We've got things like our Black in Business campaign that we're running with Channel 4 in the UK right now to try and raise the visibility and awareness of Black-owned businesses. Both those founded in Britain, but also founded internationally and trading in and within the country.
Oh, that's good.
We've also got a hub, so there's a website that we can point to with some resources on there, a number of case studies that we have. We've also got things like awards and recognition programs, and these are really important because we learn through stories, we learn through case studies, we learn through proof and evidence that these things are manifesting in real terms. Yeah. And then, fundamentally, access to finance is critical. So when people are asking for credit, when they're applying for conversations around the need to build and grow their business, helping make sure that we're scaling at a pace that is sustainable for that organisation. And quite often when we're thinking about sustainability, it's not just the economic growth, it's what we think about giving back to communities, the environmental impact of the businesses that we're running. And that for me is a truly sustainable business, when we have the environmental, the social and the economic value all coming together, moving forward at pace.
And I suppose what makes it interesting about you in particular is sort of the work you are doing elsewhere. For example, you sit on several boards. Tell us more about the board you sit on with regards to your recent trip to Kenya, for instance, and how that influences the work you do here.
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of my career working abroad. I obviously sound very British, this is where I was born, but I've spent a lot of time working in East Africa, for example.
Right.
And so actually just last week, I was back in Kenya. One of my non-executive commitments is that I'm the board chair for Save the Children, for their corporate board. Mm-hmm. So I've been spending a lot of time thinking about development finance and the flow of funding to countries and markets that need additional support and assistance. And so I had the pleasure last week of going with Save the Children. It's an organisation I've been working with for many years, but having the opportunity to actually go out into communities to really understand and experience their needs. For example, we went to the north of Kenya, to the South Sudan and Ethiopian borders. We went to Turkana, to Lake Turkana, to visit some of the local tribal groups there and really understand what they're trying to do to better their circumstances and the role of development finance to help invest in businesses, help to upskill, help to give men, women and children the opportunity to sustain and treasure the life that they have built over many generations there.
And how does that impact sort of the your scope of thinking and as far as your implementation strategy for the kind of work you're doing with Lloyds?
Yeah, so oh gosh, that's such a good question. I think that one of the challenges that we have quite often when we're in Western economies is that we think perhaps we've got it cracked. And yet we all know that there is need everywhere, right? And we've got real social mobility needs here in Britain. We have to really think about where we've got market failure and financial mechanisms that we could and should be putting in place to mitigate for that. Mm-hmm. So in one of the things that we do through my team at Lloyds Banking Group, we've started supporting things like community development, finance infrastructures. So those working in Southern Hemisphere are probably more familiar with development finance mechanisms. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're now using, growing, helping to foster...
Of course, development finance, not always in a good way, given the fact that a lot of pledges are made and deliverables are few and shortcome. There's always a good promise, and where there is actual development, it's never the output that was actually measured to begin with.
Well, that's another conversation for another time. I'm not going to get into government and politics with you, but from a banking perspective, the mechanism that we've been helping to support and build out with a wonderful organisation in the UK called Responsible Finance. Right. It's a community development finance instrument, which essentially means that Lloyds Banking Group are putting funding into this community development fund.
And it's community led.
And there's a community development fund that is there, and they work and decide how to invest down and where that goes, etc. Okay. So I'm a big fan of, well, and I think everybody should, listen and understand the needs of the customers that you're trying to support, mm-hmm. be led by the communities and those that are closest to the issues that you're trying to resolve, because it's their lived experience, they know better than me, for sure. And then figuring out the role of any specific institution within that context. So in my day job at Lloyds Banking Group, it's things like access to skills, access to finance, using the advocacy and the influence that Lloyds Banking Group can bring through its kind of genuine intent on this work, And then in a personal capacity, I choose to also spend my time on things like my non-executive role at Save the Children, because again, it keeps me close to the people that are disenfranchised, that need support. I hope it makes me better at my day job. And I hope it means that I can credibly listen to and represent their needs through the work that I do at Lloyds Bank.
I think definitely. I think listening has been something that has been lacking a lot between the relationship between the global north and the global south. And I think when people listen more, especially from the global north, to the concerns of the global south, it gives you greater insight and scope in order to expand and further create better strategies that are have a duality in terms of output and deliverables. But more germane to the event we're at.
Yes.
My final question would be: how do you find, or what role do you find Lloyds Bank playing in order to sort of help facilitate the particular, aspiration of bridging, the relations between the Caribbean and the African community?
Well, firstly, the fact that I'm even here at this event, right, that tells you something. I've literally just come back from Kenya, and I'm here and I'm speaking and I'm listening and learning and hopefully sharing the bank's intent and what we're doing on the ground here. I think that the role that Lloyds Banking Group plays, firstly, it's our business capability. We are a bank. That's what we're here to do. We have a role in the economy here, and we have a role to kind of champion and advocate for those that want to grow and have more sustainable livelihoods within the economy. And that includes everyone. Absolutely does include everyone. The other part of it is also thinking about trade. So if I think about the role of institutions like the British Chamber of Commerce, that's got a quite broad reach globally. But how does that then manifest in how we're helping people make connections back to Britain? A big part of helping Britain prosper is also thinking about the cultures that have helped to build and sustain what it means to be British, right? In a positive sense, that also means thinking about our relationship with the Southern Hemisphere, right? And we've got a duty there to think about and encourage those businesses that want to trade, that want to come and do business here in Britain, feel like they've got a bank they can trust, they can come and spend time with us, they've got people that they can come and engage with, whether it's myself, someone on my team, or in our wider organisation. All we can do is show up, listen, say we're here, show you what we can do.
That's it. Beth Knight, thank you so much for your time. Great conversation with the head of social sustainability right here in the UK, Lloyds Bank. Guys, you are tuned into SAT Interviews with your host, Farai Mavuti. Thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned. And remember, we're here live at Axis 2024.